don't think he's actually dead. Here's a theory I've had for a while, is that the internet is amazing for all beginner level, entry level stuff. But you run into a point where maybe around intermediate level, language learning, coding, research, whatever, you're gonna have to go look at a real book. And then even beyond that, you're just gonna have to go out into the world and see what's there. The information hasn't been digitized, but it's just here. Hi, I'm Emily. I live in Chongqing, and today I'm looking for the poetry of the city. We're on our way to 𝗖𝗵cie bookstore on Nanbinglu, the river walk on the south side. And we're going there because I hear that it is a non-chain bookstore, which I am very in favor of. Small notes in my old age. I return to the village and see lots of red peppers sunbathing on the threshing floor with me, giving warmth to the summer. We eat a lot of hot pot for 10 years, but that's not what this video is about. Though, when we do find a good place, ooh, it's hot, we'll make the definitive Emily in China hot pot video. A poem by 𝗖𝗵cie, translated by 𝗵𝗵cie and 𝗵𝗵𝗶. If any of you know where his restaurant is, tell me. I put my hands to my eyebrow to make an arbor, as if installing an air conditioner in front of my eyes. Oh, 我自己是我自己。哦，你念的。哦，我想念得像。The poet 𝗖𝗵cie was called The Hermit of Chongqing by Poetry International. He's a contemporary poet, becoming active in the early 80s till now. I wasn't able to confirm anywhere else that he was the hermit necessarily of Chongqing, but he's here. In fact, my forehead and neck are making salt, lots of salt. Look, we've made this summer so salty. And he's one of those artists who, if it was up to him, he wouldn't show anyone his poems, let alone publish. And that it's at his friend's behest that he's published anything, which I always kind of wondered, like, how do I get that gig? When I don't show anybody my work, nobody notices. So I'm already a little jealous of this guy. It's a good time to be a book lover living in a foreign country because digital books are so easy. But I still just love books as a physical object, and bookstores, which is, you know, a lot of bookstores in China, if they're not a 𝗖𝗵cie chain store, still follow that big, not even big box because that's not what they sell, but like giant book emporium / coffee shop, which is what 𝗖𝗵cie books turned out to be. 𗗖𝗵cie, I don't know where they got 𝗖𝗵cie from. There's been a lot of talk around the Uncle Foreigner offices these days about captioning. We like to use captions for a couple reasons. We want to get both the demographics that are hearing impaired, but also just those who are bad at listening. I never turn the volume up on Facebook videos in my stream. Write a thing. I'll read it. But the other thing is, 𝗣𝗂叔叔is not from here. We don't want to be a couple of Americans explaining China to other English speakers. Stab the dislike button if I ever explain anything. But think on this. It's a big world out there, and not all of it is in English. This is Milan, our translator. Introduce yourself, Milan.
Hi, my name's Milan. I'm a Luzhouren, but I'm living in Chengdu.
That will do. Now, bilingual captioning has a couple of pitfalls. When you go out and about in the world as a foreigner, people want to ask you questions. Often the same questions over and over again. There's well-known expat tropes of like, people will ask you the same 5 questions over and over. Can you use chopsticks? Can you speak Chinese? Can you use the spice? I can't think of 2 others. Some of his work has even been translated into English, and it's really, in English, very evocative. It's full of imagery and like very, very salt of the earth Sichuan-y, with lots of farm life and elemental, I guess.
Mandarin is a famously difficult language to learn for English speakers. The State Department rates it as a level 3.
Have you heard the news? Starbucks is open. And there's not just this one. This summer, we'll have a total of 3. Isn't that always the way? Soon, Luzhou will reach full Starbucks saturation. But the Chinese have been ingesting caffeine for thousands of years. It's a well-known fact that all the tea in China is a lot of tea. And I'm not hospitable enough to myself, otherwise why should I bring myself this full cup of liquor? When I buy stuff at the bookstore, it tends to be either art books that I can just look at, Chinese novels or translation of American novels that are definitely reach goals for my language level at this point. And stationery. I love stationery. I love fun stationery. Poetry International also had the Taoist quote, "Small hermits hide in forests, big hermits hide in cities," which was another thing I couldn't really source anywhere else. And I've been thinking about what does it mean. I feel like the parallel structure is doing a lot of heavy lifting. And I like the idea of a big hermit. But I kind of don't know what that means. Yes, because I finally had half of it. As an antique, holistic idealist, I demand everything be complete, including remnants of clouds, embers, and death. Automated captioning can be fooled as something as simple as switching languages. Take a look at this old video from December 2017.
上海的气温比北京高好几度，不过因为屋子里没有暖气，所以感觉还没有北京暖和。
Woodley Mayo. That's kind of beautiful.
No, it's just nonsense. What is
Save it for next time, Milan, and I will too. For Chinese books, I prefer digital because it's a lot of work to look up all the words I don't know. And if at least I can just tap on them and get a definition, I can approach the idea of fluidity. I'm so not there yet, and I'm dying to read. When I came home from the first day of kindergarten, I made my mom teach me how to read because I felt like we didn't cover that adequately in school. I feel smart forgetting that when he's talking about salt. That's probably a reference to that this region within China is known for salt production. But I'm sure I'm missing a ton. The hard part of translating Chinese to English is not only is the logic of Chinese sentences are a little bit back. I'm only saying directionally, not in sophistication, but they're the opposite direction of logic. And poetry must be hard to translate too, because there's a lot of playing with characters and phonemes that sound alike to imply they're sister characters. I almost called them sister and brother. I'm not sure why I gendered them. And then decided that they're women. That English doesn't have phonemes, or it's very rare in English for phonemes to have different meanings but sound exactly the same. But that's very common in Chinese, and I think a lot of Chinese poetry, from what I understand, plays with that. I'd love to hear more about this, because this is part of my education.
There's actually a beautiful simplicity to the Putonghua, the common tongue. There's no plurals, there's no articles, no verb conjugations. In a sentence, you can just pile action after action. 我想出去看瀑布. I want go see waterfall. When Chinese speakers translate their thoughts into English, there's a tendency to turn that simplicity into a poetry that I really enjoy. Our students at 𝗖𝗵cie Middle School would tell us all kinds of things about their life. I am but a common boy. Each year, China wears a new face. Because you are my friend, I must tell you something. Today is my birthday. I love it. Isn't that wonderful? Even this tea, on the menu, it's described as a riot of fruit tea. It's just normal fruit juice.
I don't buy a lot of English language books because they don't usually have them, or if they do, it's like 17 copies of Jane Eyre and the complete works of Shakespeare, which I've read. And actually, I recently found Taobao has English books for super cheap. That's so easy.
Used to be in Luzhou, you could set up a tea house anywhere there was space for chairs and a thermos. These days, things are a bit more regulated, so you do actually need a building to be attached with your tea house. But it's a simple affair. You order your glass with some leaves or some flowers, or both in my case, and they give you a thermos of hot water, which you can pour over it. And that's your afternoon. However, I can accept what's second best. No old age. Oh, kids, they ask about your kids and your salary a lot too. That is something I think that rubs foreigners the wrong way, because culturally it's totally fine in Chinese to small talk about money, and especially, I think this is true in other Western countries, but I know in America it's like super rude to ask what someone's salary is. Also, commenting on your body, how fat or tall you are. That's not rude in Chinese, but it is rude to Americans. So people do get, there's a slight annoyance with the set of personal questions. But I actually don't mind it because I look at it as my pop quiz.
I was recently listening to the podcast Time to Say Goodbye, which kind of covers Asian American voices. And they interviewed the poet 𝗖𝗵cieH𝗴𝗾𝗶, who is Vietnamese American, who talked about Ezra Pound's translations of Chinese and Japanese poetry. And he he made his own work out of someone else's work, which that's another discussion, whether that's appropriate or not. But something he did that affected American and English language understanding of poetry from this area is he stripped, because he didn't get it, he stripped all the political and other context out of it, and they just became poems about longing or beautiful rocks. And so then, for that generation of poets, it defined Asian poetry as very environmentally beautiful, but nothing more. Which is, that's why I listen to podcasts like that. Is because I don't know these things. My knowledge is missing, but it is that is a huge problem of the West's view of China, is we're often working with incomplete information. And Ocean conceded, and I agree, that's not a reason not to try. You got to go forward with what you have, but also realizing your knowledge is incomplete. I think it's what poetry's for.
Luzhou tea houses are pretty loud and social places. Even in 88-degree weather, there's people here having fun for the afternoon. The main entertainment is actually mahjong, or some card games. Luzhou people love card games. So you play your cards, drink your tea, and that's your day. If you get hungry, street vendors come by with snacks and fruits. A specialty, especially in the summer, is this cold glutinous rice dish with a little bit of syrup poured over the top. It looks weird, but it's actually pretty refreshing in a Luzhou haze. Too many people give up the rest of their lives to be a martyr. One life is too short to accommodate, might as well leave. Gary Scheingart wrote a novel in which it's set in the future when there is no books, or books are rare, and one of the younger characters says,
They smell bad. And I always thought that was funny. And they do, like, books do take on a kind of smell. They're kind of, if you don't like them, they're horrible to have around. They just have, like, dust and moldy pages. I'm really making my case for real books. Don't buy real books, send them all to me. I heard a joke recently that I'm about to butcher, but it goes along the lines of all the problems in physics have been solved, but they're buried deep in like a Russian journal somewhere from the 60s, so we just don't know it yet.
So this is for me, because I like achievement and I like winning. This is my pop quiz when all of a sudden I'm in an elevator and I have to ask 20 questions about why I don't have a kid, or 20 questions about my job schedule. And it's like some professor somewhere said, the pop quiz can come at any time and can draw on anything from the sentence you learned your first week in China to knowledge we haven't even covered yet. So be ready, students. And I'm ready, because I like studying and I like knowing the answer.
I am so extreme. I either fly up to eat people or dive into the sea to watch the stars. Songwei has a restaurant, or opened a restaurant in 2017. Because he wants to serve the food he loves to people. Although from pictures, it also looks like it's kind of a trendy bar as well. But I just could not find the address online. Otherwise, we might have gone there today. But I do also kind of think if you're a hermit and you have a bar, should I go to it and then put that on the internet? Maybe that's private. I looked in Chinese too, though, and I just could not find the restaurant. Maybe I have to know somebody.
If you're looking for a more isolated experience while you drink your joe, the local Western restaurant is also an option. They're usually furnished with comically oversized couches placed just a little too far from the table. It's so much comfort that it comes back around to discomfort. People don't come here to be seen or to mingle or to exchange ideas or to work on their article. They come here to get away from the relentless teeming masses outside. Don't get the pizza. Actually, I suspect people don't come here for the food. I think they order for decoration, like, oh, look at my sandwich. Oh, I could need a bite. It looks tantalizingly real, though, if you're homesick enough.
And I like those bookstores too. That's fine. I'm always impressed. They have like the latest American titles. Like they have the new Franzen. It's already translated on shelves, as well as, you know, Chinese titles. And I guess it's a trickier thing to run a ma and pa used bookstore style thing in China because there's the regulation that goes along with that. The sky collapses, seawater overflowing. In looking up whether this guy was actually a hermit or not, I realized I know that hermit means lonely guy, but nothing else. And actually, it's pretty rooted in Christian tradition of like going and isolating yourself so you don't have to worry about washing your hair. You can just read the Bible and think your religious thoughts. But that also Eastern religions, many religions have a tradition of hermitage.
But what if I wanted someplace cute? Someplace designed to be aggressively appealing. There are, in fact, Chinese cafes with a sense of style. They're often decorated with vintage-like pieces, probably ordered from an online kit. I've seen so many faux book objects, it's no longer depressing. That's not true. A fake book always hurts my heart. But they do have real Liptons, and it's served with milk and a cookie. These places tend to attract a younger crowd. They come to hang out after work, drink some tea, have a cake. And the good thing about younger people is their fun tends to be a little less loud.
Little mom and pops do exist in China, however, or they have. Kunming had a really cool used bookstore 6 years ago at least. And it was the kind where it was just like shelves, books tucked in every nook and cranny, and a fake loft where there's more books. I think I bought like a home massage family health manual there for 2 kwai.
For my particular flavor of social unease, it's easier for me to focus on fulfilling a knowledge quotient rather than to look at it as a social interaction. So sometimes it's easier for me to speak to people in Chinese than it is to speak to people in English.
Which is sometimes about isolation, but sometimes is also more just about that asceticism, living a simple life. And people can come and go. They're less strict about that, which I thought was interesting. I mean, if I was a hermit, I'd choose no stuff. No, I'd choose lots of people, no stuff. No, I'd choose the opposite. Lots of stuff, no people. If my old age coincides with this earth, why aren't we doomed on the same day? In this age of digital, if I read before bed, the blue lights keep me up. So I'm trying to keep to actual books before bed. But I just like them. When Peter and I got married, we moved in together, and our apartment, obviously, our apartment could barely contain all the books that we owned. That's why we got married, to fill an apartment with books.
There's a buzz in the air when a new chain comes to town. Among locals in Laowai alike, we're all jazzed by the emergence of Western brands. A few years ago, the company I worked for gave out Starbucks gift cards for New Year's, I think it was. The company was province-wide, so they didn't see the issue, but we didn't have a Starbucks yet. I had to wait 2 years for the emergence of that mermaid. Is she a mermaid? Whatever. To come to town. Does it still work? Let's find out. Left, so I got a drink for both of us. Starbucks in China is pretty much the same in America, I guess. We might have different stuff, but it's the same experience. At the end of all this, I don't actually drink coffee myself. I prefer tea. Usually bought on Taobao, so I don't have to leave the house.
Something that's missing from the digital experience of buying books, that's to its detriment replicated in these big, huge, massive bookstores, is the act of browsing for something unexpected. If you have like everything available at your fingertips, you can't surprise yourself with something you didn't even know you wanted.
I think people don't believe actors when they say they're shy, but it's way easier to deliver lines someone else has written to millions of people than it is to make up your own lines directed at one person. For us shy types, anyway.
If the earth can't wait for my urgent but sweet deadline, I will say to the world, come sooner.